Okay, this should be working fine, right? All looks good. Yep. So today, source generators. So in looking at the Saga stuff, I made a few changes, and actually I probably should share that to explain why I am doing what I'm doing. So I made a few changes to the design of the Sagas yesterday, and decided in a little bit of a flip of behavior. So this is loading. So the Sagas, in theory, work, right? They should coordinate these behaviors together and then do something about the behavior. So what I want to do is be able to produce something, right? Because the reality is I have to create a Saga with a orchestrating ID identifier, right? It has to be established with it because otherwise it's not based upon it. It doesn't mean I can't then do dependency injection against it because now I've got a thing that doesn't have any dependencies. So my thought was I'm building this into Mediator, right? It's an integral component of it. So lean into that rather than try and abstract it or avoid it for a little while, right? And let's see if I can make it work. So I started to kind of flesh out some interfaces really to start building classes that will establish my Saga, so that when I publish an event, it's handled and generated, and all that code can be, it's pretty much boilerplate, right? For any Saga, it should do whatever it needs to do. And then as the events come in, the complete scenario, I think there's something in here that says, okay, when I complete, I handle, an on-complete publish or something like that, right? And provide some form of interface so that I can add that behavior. I can decorate this class with that behavior. So the only way I can think to do this is if I generate classes that interact with this, so that this setting up a Saga and saying I publish this is enough to do most of what I need, right? So I can just say, okay, here's a Saga, it does this, then that code is generated for me, and then I can say it produces this message on complete. And because I'm collecting the data I need, right? The Saga contains all the data, or can pull all the data it needs for an event, right? But I started to get to think about, there's kind of a pipeline here. It's not just about the save. Is the save an aspect of the Saga? I don't think it is. I think how it persists is independent of sorry, I ain't gonna write back. I think a dog just grabbed something they shouldn't have done. Okay, dogs. I swear they'll find a way in no matter what you do. Okay, so let's update this first. So actually persisting the saga is not a component of the saga itself, so it shouldn't really know about it. And then I kind of got to thinking about, well, realistically, I don't want to have to wire up a whole load of code to make a saga work, right? So it's kind of like we talked about, right? Where we said, okay, well, the the handlers should not need to publish or touch the sagas themselves, right? I should be able to say, yep, this saga is pulled apart. What I mean there is, in the subscribers here, these handlers should deal with what they're handling. I shouldn't have to do this part, right? This should be independent of this piece, because it is independent, right? This action is independent of everything else. And if it's not, then I can make an event from this that publishes when this is complete, to kind of, because I've got to think about the chained responsibilities. So what I really need to do is I need to be able to say, okay, well, I'm going to have a handler specifically for the saga, but I don't want to keep writing that, right? Because it literally is rinse and repeat, right? It's kind of like I handle, it's almost essentially public class, tenant registration saga handler, right? And it's an iNotification handler of tenant user was registered, and a iSaga handler of tenant user tenant registration saga, something like that. So it's kind of the same code over and over again, in that it is, okay, pull the saga based upon the ID, and then update the saga with the event. So I get to source generation. Source generation would give me the ability to create the classes, those boilerplate classes, so they'd be there, they'd be registered. They'd wire the saga up so that the event would happen. So then I do need to get to extra pieces, such as, so I did structure this a little bit differently. So I got rid of dependency injection by putting the orchestrating identifier on the constructor. It does mean that I now can trust pretty much that a saga takes an created primary constructor, kind of reads better. You can still get it, but yeah. And this is one of the biggest problems I have with primary constructor is that is a public property anyway. I can't change that. So that's gonna be what it's gonna be. But from a design perspective, it kind of reads nice. So the state is the state. I got rid of the some of the unnecessary stuff there. I cleaned up that. State is an object at its core, and I cleaned up the organization of these a bit, and I introduced I am started by and I handle, and they are the same interface, just different indicators, right? The I am started by would potentially trigger. We could actually create a handler to say, create the saga, right? If it doesn't exist, whereas the other ones shouldn't create the saga, right? The I handle should not create the saga. So, yeah, it's a bit of a diversion, but I think from the learning perspective, from understanding it, even if I don't use it here properly, then it will help. And doing it this way will allow me to kind of put some more structure in place around the sagas that I then don't have to think about, right? So being able to create a sort of pipeline that says, okay, here's the saga. Is it complete? Okay, what does it do? Right. And then generates the code for publishing. So I can layer in a generator for publishing the mediator message. Because again, like I said, this is not independent of the mediator library right now. Right. I'm going to end up creating something to say, okay, this saga produces an event when it's complete. And that's going to be a mediator event, which then I would hook into my Kafka piece. I'm trying to be too clever by trying to put the Kafka component inside of this saga thing, right? The saga's leading into the mediator piece. And if I look at libraries such as Mass Transit or N-Service Bus, which I have looked to for inspiration here, you know, the saga is a component of the overall system, right? It's not an independent piece that just sits neatly on top. So I'm going to lean into the fact that I'm using mediator and create an actual mediator implementation, so that if I decided to make it for mediator, I don't know what the right way to pronounce the two of those is, but mediate R, then I could also create an implementation that would work there, because the notification stuff is all the same. So I could leverage both. So source generators. I've been tinkering a little bit. I've been struggling a lot. But in essence, what I need to do is I need to create a project. Now they give you a sample project, so let's do that first. Source generators. It's only up to .NET 7. They haven't updated it yet for Rider. Let's create this. So this creates 3 projects, right? A .NET Standard project. So a source generator has to be a .NET Standard library. And it demonstrates 2 things. It demonstrates, let's see if it builds actually. It demonstrates a source generator and an incremental source generator. I'm yet to learn what the difference is, truly. I know that they have different interfaces, they have different behaviors, and certain things require ooh, that would help. Not compatible. Okay. They haven't updated it for that one. So what we have here is a source generator library, and this will be a .NET Standard library. Yeah, .NET Standard 2 library. And a sample project, and then the unit tests for it. Right. So what happens is, this is a source generator, right? It's going to go through all files marked as additional files. If it finds one, or if it's not this one, then continue. Get the file text, and then for each line, pull the lines, build up the source code. Oh, so it creates 5 objects: customer, product, stock, shop, and employee, right? So it will use this here, yeah. And then what happens is, in here, if I build, where does it do it? Source generators. There's our 5 classes. There you go, see. So there's our customer, our employee, our product. And if I go in and add, so this is the actual sample project, right? So this has got a reference to the source generators library. So if I create invoice and then build, I should be able to go here, here, and here and see invoice. Okay, makes sense. Incremental, I'm not sure about, but I don't need to care about incremental right now. I need this sort of behavior. So let's go here and add a new solution folder, demo. Right, I'm gonna keep them as reference so I can keep jumping back and forth. Let's create another prototype. Okay, so let's add a new project. And add a class library, and it's going to be .NET Standard 2.1. I haven't seen anything that says I cannot use 2.1. Volume is very low. How's about that? That should be a little better. Move the microphone a little closer and up the volume on the microphone. Good day, by the way. I'd say good morning, but no, that's presumptive. Good evening. There you go. Good day. Hopefully that volume's a bit better. I did up it a little bit on the mixer. So let's go to prototype. We're going to create a generators. Good. We're going to create a generators project. Create that project and remove that. And then if we go to here and create a new project, we're going to create this as a console application, .NET 8. And this is going to go in. What's this going to go in? This is going to go as, we'll just call it sample right now. So the sample project is going to reference the generators. Right. So let's create a directory infrastructure and create a class, an interface, iHandle. Right. This is going to be T event, where event is iEvent. For right this second, that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to bring mediator into it now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to structure this out. And again, the goal here is to make sure that I am, the goal here is to see if I can actually generate these handlers by default, and try and add that layer on top of the Saga stuff that I've already done, to give myself some more flexibility there. And then the next phase of that would be to kind of create a pipeline, because I think, again, the saving of the Saga is a component of the process of using the Saga, not an actual explicit action that I should call necessarily. But we're exploring, we're learning. This is all new stuff, and I think it's, if nothing else, it's useful to understand how this stuff works. So, this would have a handle method, right? iEvent does not matter right this second. It just happens to be an iEvent. That one's, yeah, because I'm only ever going to send it in, so it wants the explicit indicator. So let's add a generator. So this will be a message, a notification handler generator, right? So in essence, these are not events. These are actually notifications, right? If I'm being real about what these actually are. So I want to hook it into the notification component. I don't want to explicitly hook it into the messaging component, because the messaging component is aimed at being one-to-one, right? You're going to send a command or a query, and it goes to a handler, yes. But notifications are broadcast. So anyone can listen to a notification. So I want to be explicit here. I don't want to be mixing my terminology and then leaving myself open to confusion. So we need an iSource generator, and it needs to have that, right? Let's go and add the NuGet packages. So this is Microsoft code analysis, yes. So we add C# code analysis and I believe analyzers is the one we need. I don't know why they're out of step with each other in terms of the numbers. That's a very unusual thing for Microsoft to have vastly out of sequence version numbers on these things. Okay, so we add code analysis, and that gives us two methods. So we're going to start really simple. We're going to see if we can actually get it to build an actual class. So what I'm trying to do here is, from my experience so far of going through this, I cannot find a solid example of here's how to configure your project. The Microsoft docs have a lot of information on it, right? And it says, okay, here we go. Here we're going to create hello from generated code. We need the analyzers and we need the analysis, and they use standard 2.0. We're going to test to see if that's actually necessary or whether we can go with 2.1. Then we create a source generator, which is what I'm doing. So then we're going to do something like this, right? And we're going to test to see if we can create a class. We're not going to do it this way, right? Because this actually injects a method and requires you to put your main class as partial, so it can add that extra feature in there, right? Why is my mouse moving? Something is going on very strange. The mouse was lagging very badly then. I'm on a dual PC, so this is not affected by the stream. Okay, so I want to do var source equals, that doesn't matter right this second. That's just namespace, sample namespace. Let's see if it actually accepts that. And there you go. I love how Copilot still works inside of big text blocks. So then, there you go. It's already helping me. So then we should add a file called sample class. So a few different people will do it differently, but ultimately they're showing generated classes with a G. I think that's Microsoft's kind of standard. Global using directive. Okay, so this project is not correct. Why? No, that's sample. A project containing analyzer or source generator should specify the property true. Enforce extended analyzer rules. Edit generators. Enforce extended analyzer rules. True. Lang version latest. Because it's .NET Standard 2, it's defaulting to an older version of the language, which created that problem. Okay, so I have a reference. I have my generator, right? So what I'm expecting to see is a class, right? Because I should be able to go in here and say, what do we call it? So good, Dan. Paying attention. We should be able to do that, right? But we can't do it. So why? Let's make sure that's built once more. Right? There's no... That's weird that that's also triggered. But anyway. In this case, this did produce source generators, right? So the only difference there is we're on 2.1. So let's move it back to 2.0 and see what happens. Right? Build selected projects. Nope. So is there something else I need to include? And this is kind of why I'm doing this, right? So is Roslyn component? Is that going to help? Is packable? Those are the two things that immediately stand out. C# workspaces, I don't know. We can build it up. But let's pick this out. So let's go back and make that .NET Standard 2.1, right? Definitely don't have source generation there. Right? What else was there? Let's close all tabs. Let's edit that one. So this is the source generators. Is packable. Is packable false? And that rule's in there, right? That's prompted, so I don't think that could be forgotten. Build selected projects. So still no extra piece there. I'm expecting it to appear. It may not. I may be wrong. But I'm expecting it to appear in there under, because the namespace doesn't matter, right? The namespace doesn't have to align with the rest of the actual project. It can still be included as a namespace. Namespace is just a grouping of code. So let's make the other change. Let's make this again a 2.0 library. See if that has any impact. Nope. So now let's look at this and see if there's any actual attributes on this one. So the only difference there is output. Source generators is included as a project reference as an output analyzer. Reference output assembly false. So let's have a look at this one. Reference true. But I don't get to choose that. There's source generators one, see? Yeah. So I don't get to choose that when I include the reference, right? So why does that work? Enforce extended analyzer rules. We've got that. Is Roslyn component true? Root namespace. Package ID. Maybe. Let's have a look. I'm going to put this back to 2.1. Right. I know that that could be breaking it, but and this is going to be target generators. So I'm expecting to see an analyzer, right? And then source generation. So why does that not work? Let's make sure that this has the right. So that's generators. And this is, yep, that's all looking the same. So let's do the other change again. Let's put it back to 2.0. So it's a bit back and forth. The one thing I haven't found is I haven't found any solid, hey, do this. And I don't like this idea because if I include mediator, right, that uses source generators. I don't have to change my project files, right? So in my mind, the only way to do this is to be able to add a reference to another project, right? Or add a reference to the package. I should not have to change any of those things. Maybe that's naive, but I've definitely had it generate something, so I don't know what I've changed. I do not want to keep going into the project files of the projects that are referencing it and changing things though, because that seems to be counterproductive. But how do we include it as an analyzer? That is an interesting one. So let's go in and add it. Because then that comes down to how do you deploy a package with code generation? So let's go in here. I'm going to make it 2.1 because I want to see it work in 2.1. That's just my way of doing this. Some people might say, hey, use 2.0 until it works and then up it to 2.1 and see that it breaks. But I don't want to risk having it left lying around with the wrong one. So what we need to do is go into the project again and in here. We're already referencing it, but we need to do something like that, right? So we need to output item type and then reference output assembly false. Why did I break? Did I break? Why did I break that? So it immediately did it immediately did it, right? So that was the difference. Hello does not exist in the current context. That's valid code. We do using system do console.writeLine public class sample class. That is a perfectly formatted class file. The name hello does not exist. That's a I can use that class. Sample class sample equals new sample, right? Sample dot sample method. Sample. That's what I want to run. It's not like that. So what have I broken? Sample class G, line 7, character 35. There's no... Have I forgotten how to write code? Anybody see what I'm doing wrong there? Please don't. Please don't. Oh no. So .NET Standard 2.0, change it back once more and prove that that is the problem. I don't know why it would be the problem, but it is the problem. So for a code generation, you cannot use .NET Standard 2.1. That would have saved me so much more time. So that is now a fully accessible class because the source generator builds the class. And ta-da, we have an actual class written into our code at compile time, so it's available to use. But that's not really what I'm trying to do here, right? I'm not trying to... Hey, Delta, how you doing? Good morning. Pretty good. Nice. So let's go to the... Nice. Got to share it in the Discord? Oh, for work. I was able to get feedback on it when it was short about recently revised to 2300 words. I guess it's too long now. I'll review it if you want. I'm making, yeah, you're making a presentation for it. Yeah, like we discussed yesterday. Roslyn Cookbook, I think it is. Source generates cookbook. There you go. So this is a here's how to do cool things with source generators. GitHub repository gives you example code for everything. I feel sort of weird publishing it on the web, but at the same time, it is the only way I can really develop it. I mean, when you publish something on the internet, well, depends if people find it and like what it says, or sadly on the internet dislike what it says. What I was going to say is, sometimes you've got to publish something to test what you really know. Years ago, I wrote interfaces in action. 2012, 22nd of April, 2012. I wrote this. It's actually very poor. With hindsight, I would do it very differently. But I wrote it because I was trying to make sure I understood more about what I was talking about. Right? 2010, I wrote it originally. So 13 years ago. But I put it out there, right? I decided I'd write it and see what people thought of it. And there was some criticism, right? But no one reviewed it below 3. Oh, three removed votes. So some people were a little harsher, maybe. But I put it out there. You got to do it sometimes. And again, with the streaming thing, right? I got to accept that someday someone's going to walk in, go into the stream and say, hey, you have no idea what you're talking about. Here's how it actually works. So, yeah, that's what you're doing. So, it's a good choice. Because we don't all get to have mentors, right? That's been one of the areas I feel that I wish I would have had more mentorship as I progressed through my career. At this point, mentorship costs a lot of money because I'm unfortunately in a position where I get put into a job as a senior and I'm the person that people would look to for that. Whereas I still feel I need it. Nice. I will review it afterwards. That's okay. But yeah, I wish I had had more active mentors growing up. Yeah, well, essentially growing up. So something is going really wrong in this browser. This is DuckDuckGo, and something is really causing it to chug. Yeah. I've actually considered it, like offering some level of mentorship to people that come in the stream and stuff. I just don't know how I'd structure that or time that effectively. You know, because I think it could be useful if people have more one-on-one time and more ability to, you know, ask some questions and, you know, again, in the same way as writing an article, I get to test what I don't know and show that path of learning from a different perspective. Yeah. Okay, so the reason I'm looking at the cookbook is I saw this example earlier on, right? And it's kind of what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to be able to say, hey, go and find me all classes that implement this interface. And for each one of these, I need to generate an extra class that's going to do a thing. I had purely technical mentorship through TED, and another mentor who sort of tried to develop a personality side. I didn't like the latter at all. Or like the second guy got into soft skills. I just don't find it nearly as useful. Hi, Saurav. Where are you from and how's the work-life balance there? I am from originally the UK. I live now in the US. My work-life balance is pretty good. But that is mainly through my own choice. I believe that if we have 8 hours of work a day, that's the 8 hours I'm working. And an employer that pushes too hard is not an employer worth working for. But that's a long, a long established belief. So yeah, I do a lot of stuff in my spare time. I get to stream. Yeah. My work-life balance is really good. Nice, daughter. That's important. It really is. I do my own thing on side projects, but no pressure from the employer there. Yeah. You know, I think we should be given time to step away from the computer or do what we want to do and not have to worry about the job all the time. So again, that belief all comes back to my approach to general software, right? Write clean, maintainable code, work less in code, produce things faster, don't have to work 8 or more hours a day, right? I'm all about being lazy. Didn't know you were here in the US. I'm in the East Coast near DC. I'm in New Jersey. So yeah. The article I managed to get Strager to review it a couple of times, and he improved it essentially. He had extremely good suggestions. Nice. Yeah, good productive feedback is essential. Okay, so let's move on this, right? Or the pups decide they want to do a quick walk. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and borrow this code. So not the augmentation, syntax receiver, right? I'm going to borrow this code. Nice. Strago works for Facebook, has like 100 average viewers, knows how to get things to be more palatable. I assume you mean, do you mean palpable there? Or palatable? Easier to digest. Yeah. Yeah. That point, Sarav, I do believe that meetups and things like that are, you know, like .NET user groups and stuff. I think those are really great places for conversations that, you know, like a stream is kind of one directional for the most part because it is very much me talk, you could answer, but it's all disconnected chat. But a meetup is a really cool idea. So I'd find user groups and stuff as well. Yeah, easy to digest, consume. Yeah. So, yeah. with 100 viewers as well, you also get a lot of feedback yourself. So, people want to hear what you say. So what we're going to do is we're going to create public class handler syntax receiver. Syntax receiver. Right. Yeah. I'm pretty sure again, I've got to remember to read the messages because of 2 streams. Pretty sure he's got a speed to his coding that is only attained through practice. He was doing elite code problems via his chat and winning every time. Yeah. I mean, it's speed to his coding that is only attained through practice. Speed in so much as he can write code very quickly, or speed in that he can actually generate meaningful code very quickly. Like, I've seen people who can type extremely fast and solve problems quickly. Right? Juniors as well as seniors. Time is not necessary there. It's just making sure you are practiced. But you can also, yeah. So I get bored of doing the elite code problems because I need application. Right? I need this. This is my sort of challenge, right? This sort of stuff is my challenge because I enjoy trying to figure out how to design good code. Yeah, that's just ability to solve a problem very quickly and figure out a solution in code very quickly. Right. I'm not discouraging it. I'm just saying we each have our talents, and it shouldn't be something you necessarily mimic. So this receiver. So the receiver, as far as I understand it, what happens is when you register when you add these generators, it's constantly monitoring the code, right? Because the actual compilation in the background is producing all the right symbols. And what this does is kind of register in a pipeline and say, hey, I care about this, by the way. And then this is also monitoring the code generation. And so this receiver then is kind of adding to this class to augment thing. And then the executor for the actual generator receives that and then works with the data that it's been sent. So that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and say, hey, look for all the handlers, and then this is going to have a collection of class declarations, and it's going to loop through them and actually generate a class per handler. You should start streaming John Cricket's coding challenges. I really want to see the thought process and approach to solving the problem. I'll definitely have a look at code problems. It's not really something I enjoy doing as much because I'm not very good when it comes to, hey, here's an algorithm, figure it out. I've never been very good at that sort of stuff. But I feel I am good at, here's a design that needs to be handled, write some code to do this thing, right? So I'm kind of prefer writing application code. Build your own Redis thing. That might be interesting to understand. But again, it's why I'm streaming this stuff, right? It's why I'm streaming application development. This might seem like a diversion from what I was working on, but it's not. It's very much a part of what I was working on because I have to understand if this applies, right? Oftentimes, when you're building an application from scratch, you are tasked with solving problems, and those problems have probably been solved by others many, many, many times. It's why design patterns exist. You should review design patterns because they might not click immediately, but when you see it in the code, right? I don't aim to write to design patterns. I aim to look at a problem see if a solution fits it, come up with some sort of design, and then see if a design pattern fits into it. And if I can align it to a design pattern, that helps somebody else when they're reviewing it be able to say, oh, there's a diagram for that, and I don't have to do any documentation, right? So yeah, I'll definitely check that out though. I'll have a look. But again, it's why I do application development on the stream, is because I feel that this is something that people don't get to see very often. The problem solving in, oh, I have a challenge like this Saga stuff. I know I want to solve this problem. I know I have a disconnected nature of events coming in. They're not, I don't want to add extra layers of publishing Kafka and doing all that sort of stuff and then kind of chaining this together in Kafka and doing that. That would be overly complicated. I can use the existing architecture if I just augment it with some additional pieces. So yeah. Okay, so syntax receiver. So essentially what this does is it gives you a piece of the node. It's going to be constantly looking at the syntax tree of the actual code, which just blows my mind that this is even possible. And you can evaluate every single piece, right? So if syntax node is class declaration, because I want it to be an actual class, I'm looking for I'm looking for, actually I need to build one, right? Let's do handlers. Notifications. This is going to be a what's this going to be? This is just going to be a sample notification, right? It's going to have a public string name. And then on the handler side, actually that should be subscribers, but it doesn't really make a difference. Sample notification handler. I handle sample notification. I'm doing this a little bit backwards. It's just dawned on me that I'm thinking through the problem. I'm doing it a bit backwards, but the principle still works. This is not what I'm going to look for, right? What I'm going to end up looking for is a Saga that has these on it. And then I'm going to build, right? So if I'm being realistic, this is a sample Saga, right? Let's rename this so I don't get confused further. That goes up there, goes out of that directory because it's not related to the Saga itself. Reformat, refactor, adjust namespaces so I don't get that confused. So the Saga is going to handle the notification, right? The handle is a component of the Saga, but the notification is an iNotification, right? So that is true. And this handles that. So this is what I'm looking for. And what I want to generate, for reference, what I'm aiming to generate is public class sample Saga notification sample notification handler. I request handler, we'll go with right this second, of sample notification, right? So step one is can I generate this class? That's step one. Step two is, can I then build out the right features of that class? So this will update the Saga state, right? Public object state this will update the Saga state, and if we run it and it works, we need to wire it up. But what we should see is a generated class that looks like this. That's the first goal. I'm running ahead of myself, which is not going to help me. Class declaration. Okay. So if it is a class declaration, that's impressive. If there's a base list on a class declaration for each of the types, if the name is iHandle, that's pretty impressive. So in this case, we want to add, we'll clean that up afterwards, but this is going to have public, there you go, candidate classes dot add class declaration. So this is not this is not where we decide, oh, what's the type? We don't gather that information here. We just say, is this eligible? Because I assume that because this is going to be the more complicated component, we don't want that analysis to go on for a very long time. That's my assumption. Because analyzing it for too long, trying to figure out what the types are, if it implements certain things, this stage should be, yeah, is it eligible, right? Because this has got to be crazily monitored. Hi, Rockstone. How you doing? Good day. Purely because this is happening all the time, right? Once I enable the source generators, this is going to be analyzing every change I make to the code. I mean, at build time, but it's going to be allocating that every time I build. So there has to be a cost here somewhere, but it doesn't really make a difference to you. So what I'm going to do here is register. What's the syntax? There you go. So now I'm registering that notifier. And then again, if I look back at the Roslyn docs, then we use that receiver, and that will give us the list of classes we care about, right? So let's see if we can at least do that part. So var receiver, yeah, that works. Yeah, so for each var, run Copilot, figure it out now. What do Oh my goodness me. Oh my goodness me. No, not quite. I can boilerplate most of this, but I mean, it is doing a lot of stuff there. So for anyone joining the stream for the first time, if you have any questions about what I'm doing, if you want to correct me on something, if you want to discuss more in depth on something I'm doing, feel free. I don't mind the distraction as long as it's, you know, productive in the context of learning in software. So that's awesome that it wants to do that. In receiver.candidate classes, I'm scared of accidentally filling that code in. So what I've got to learn here, the things I don't know, the things I'm about to try and learn, is how to analyze this piece, right? How to understand, and I could have filled that code in and hopefully got there, but I don't think Copilot was right in that case. I've got to figure out, okay, how do I extract the interface um, and pull the generic argument. Yeah. Yeah. No, no. Why are we doing that? Oh, because it's not an actual syntax tree. How to have fun with GitHub Copilot. That looks more like what I'm used to. Okay, so the first version, it toStrings it and then uses string manipulation to pull the argument from the list, right? That's how that's working. I do not like that. It does not. It could be quicker, but I don't like the idea of it allocating strings and manipulating that. So the second one, we get the actual type, and this is the base type, right? And this needs a little bit more work because I could implement many interfaces, right? So there could be several of these on this class. So I don't want to be too, right, but baby steps. So then we go and get the interface name. We get its descendant nodes, and we're going to get the first argument, right? Which is going to be type syntax. Dot. And again, most of this is about building building strings. So I can see why a lot of it is in strings. So it's okay. But here's what we're going to do right now. So what we're going to do is let's see if we can create a class. Context.add source, right? And this is going to be called class declaration dot base list dot. How do you get the name of the? Yeah, that'll work. Let's call that handler.js. And then the source, we're going to do that, and this is going to be using system, namespace, my wonderful handlers, public class. Now this is very, I don't know why I bother. I just, so the thing to remember here is I do not want to just keep doing this, right? I notification handler. So this is going to be my implementation against mediator, right? So this library is going to be very specific, or the one I create is going to be very specific to mediator. Does it build? No, but it doesn't build because of that. Do we have? Okay, I should start using the bet not the bet feature, the what's it called? The prediction request. Will it build? Will it actually do what I want? Have I done enough or have I run ahead of myself? Dependencies, .NET 8, source generators. Boo. Boo. We did not get what we wanted. Generic argument. Oh, that's why. It's not building it properly. He says with great confidence, having all of a couple of hours experience of doing this. Okay, it's still building sample class, so that's not doing what we wanted to do, right? Because it's not. It's not generating new classes, it's just left what's there. So it's clearly not generating anything anymore. Which is a lesson to learn, right? If you end up with code that you don't expect, then what's... Okay. So now the difficult part. Debug, source generator, JetBrains, writer. I don't think I can do this because I think they have to write very specific versions. So we can go here and add configuration files, launch settings. Actually, it's Roslyn, debug Roslyn component, target project, // sample.csproj. I don't think this works. So in theory, I'm meant to be able to, and I just added on the wrong one, didn't I? I think I just added that on the wrong one. I think I meant to do it on this one. Configuration files. Yeah, I did. Debug Roslyn. Target project, // sample.csproj. That should be there. And that should be gone. So in theory, I'm meant to be able to debug. See, that does have a debugger on it. But I'm not sure these aren't newer versions. And it looked, from what the document said before, it looked like this does not necessarily work for sample notification.cs non-nullable product. Never instantiate. That's fine. But that's not what I was trying to do, right? I'm trying to debug. Yeah, I didn't really go in where I wanted to go, is it? Oh, hold on. Thought I put breakpoint in and I didn't. All. Try that again. Oh, nice. Okay, so it is being assessed is part one there, right? So let's have a look at what it does. Probably should put it here. Right. So we know we've got a class declaration. Our class declaration is base list iNotification. Class list, class declaration, sample notification. So this is the notification class. So we don't want that one. Right? So the sample saga, this is the one we actually want, right? So if we F10, base type, generic name, see, to me, this is the most fascinating element of oh, it is. Oh, why did it? Oh, uh, that should not be that. Dear. Let's make sure that doesn't just generate what I want. No, it didn't. Okay. To me, this is the most fascinating element of C sharp, and it always has been. And I know I'm not big brained enough to understand it all, but the idea of being able to navigate the syntax and build your own stuff and do it, I know this could make for some absolutely harder to maintain code. But if the source generator is doing what they should do, I can debug those and I can test those, and the source generation can be tested itself. So it isn't completely unreliable. But this sort of fascinates me. Link, querying data, building, doing reflection. This is kind of my favorite area of C sharp. Okay, so did we even get? I don't think we got in there. So let's go back here and debug again. Let's see if we actually hit that breakpoint. Because if we don't hit it, oh, we do. Okay, so candidate classes. We have one candidate, sample saga. Right? So we go and get the interface name, I handle. It blows up on it. Sequence contains no elements. So interface name, let's have a look. We're going to get descendant nodes of type generic name syntax. Because again, all it is one big tree, right? So let's see if we can bring up an immediate window and work with that there. Interface name dot descendant nodes. Dot descendant node 0. Element at 0. Arguments, sample notification. So what's that one? What's that? That is an argument list, type argument list. Right, so we get the first type argument list. Okay. So that's, I know what I did. Right, so there we go. There's element 0 of type generic name syntax. That might be why it's failing. Cast isn't going to do that, is it? Generic name syntax. Yeah, null. So what is it? So let's go back here and figure out what that actually is. Okay, it is a type argument list. No, that's kind text. But no, it is. It's a type argument list, right? Argument list. Go here. Go here. And again, if anyone has any questions, any thoughts about what I'm doing, if you're looking at this and thinking this is insanity, I'd love to hear what you're thinking about what I'm trying to do here. You know, that's kind of why I do this. Is This is not easy, but it could be quite powerful. So sharing this on stream is definitely something I think is worthwhile. Oh, generic argument. Hey, Jove. I don't have it. Put it. Okay, let's do this. Let's pull this out. Because I assume that if it can't build valid syntax tree from the actual code it adds, it won't add the source file either. So I don't think it'll add broken code. So var source equals source text dot from encoding dot utf8 utf8. The biggest problem I have with doing this sort of stuff now is I'm going to have to finish this in about 40 minutes and go and do regular work. And when I get into something like this, I really do love doing it. So it's difficult to walk away from. Let's go here. Let's debug again. So we should only have one, right? We should hit our breakpoint. Right. So what does our source look like? Our source, copy value. VS Code. It's useful for some things. That's what it generated. Oh my goodness, it almost worked. It almost worked. If it wasn't for that, that would have been perfect. Okay. And that is because I didn't do that. Stop running. Build. I love that this is possible. This is awesome. It's almost perfect class. Come on, we've almost got it. Source, copy value. Look at that. I mean, I know I'm basically doing a templated string. I'm not doing anything fantastic here, but the fact that this is even coming together is really fun. Because what I can do here is I can actually template the code for handling a message and then dispatching it to our Saga, because all that code that, you know, retrieve the Saga, update it, etc., all that is now possible, right? Then I don't have to worry about specific handlers, and yeah, it's fantastic. But we need it to generate here. Why isn't it generating here? This we can deal with, because what we can do is we can actually say, here we go, get the namespace of the class declaration. There we go. So I'm not relying upon Copilot to do my job for me here. What I'm doing is relying on Copilot to give me a hint as to what I might do. This is no different than looking up the documentation for how to do something. I knew what I wanted to do, right? I had to write that comment. I knew what I wanted. I just didn't know the syntax for it. So at least with Copilot filling that in, if it's wrong, like the first one was wrong, right? It didn't really do what it thought it should do. That could be based upon old documentation. It could be based upon an old API. But the difference between relying upon the AI to do the coding and knowing how to do the coding is just, I know how to fact check it, right? I know how to go look this up. I know how to read the syntax. I know when I'm debugging it, oh, that's why it's wrong. This is the structure, but it's giving me that hint. It's moving me a bit further forward at a speed that I might not know how to get to. So yeah, I don't feel I don't feel like I'm cheating, right? In this instance, right? That's not doing my job. The more experienced you are, the more you'll be able to go and refactor that and change that around and do all the right things with it without relying upon. So why won't you generate? So if we go debug. I thought that about Copilot once. There we go. That's a problem. So again, right. Now I get that they're also analyzing my code, which probably isn't great. Namespace declaration syntax. I thought that about Copilot once, but Copilot makes suggestions. Yeah. Zero. Okay. So now get class declaration, get namespace from class declaration. Dependent nodes of type. Oh, something is definitely going wrong in the browsers. Try to get parent syntax. Oh, you made a method. Extension methods are useful, but you don't start with them. You should start with the code, figure it out, and then figure out what should be an extension method. Namespace name, so that syntax node. If it's parent, we just keep going up until we hit the parent of the syntax tree. That seems awfully inefficient. So I call it get namespace from s parent switch namespace. So we're just using recursion to both of these methods basically go right back up the syntax tree to pull the top level, the namespace level. Really, this is the only way we know how to do this? There's nothing signal it as this is a namespace. But we have a namespace declaration syntax. Oh. Okay, so that's why that was built that way, right? That was what that was trying to do. It says, hey, go and get all my ancestors where they are the namespace, because there really should only be one. And get the first one, just in case we've been crazy and declared multiple namespaces. So that's the alternative to the recursion, right? Let's go here. Now, I don't think this is magically going to fix my problem, but I just want to make sure it's in a namespace that makes sense in the code that it's going to sit in. I can hit F5 at this point. I don't know why I'm doing it this way. Okay. So class declaration dot get dot ancestors dot toList. 2. A compilation unit syntax and a file scoped namespace declaration. Ta-da! Oh, that's that's not good. Because how I write my classes could also impact this code generation. Yeah, I'm trying to create new classes. So I'll give you a quick introduction. So the project I'm working on stream is it's a personal project. The code won't be available because it is going. My aim is for it to be an actual product. But I'm sharing the development of chunks of it on the stream. So yesterday I started, well, 2 days ago I started work on sagas. So I have a situation where I produce an event for when I register a tenant. I produce an event when I register the user for the tenant. But the tenant should not become valid until a confirmation message comes back from auth0 to say the user is valid. So I kind of need to group these events together. A saga in my distributed world makes sense because it's a long running process that can chain them together. I'll get there. So I created a tenant registration saga. And the idea of this is it will receive these events and then somehow I will trigger the publish of an event to say completed, which will then trigger the next piece in the process. So the challenge here is I want to use the events that are built into Mediator. Right. Did you just get an ad break? Did I just talk through an ad break and not realize it? So, cutting it short, just for the purpose of this, I want to generate these sagas. These sagas have these I am started bys. This is my interface. But ultimately, I need to listen to the different events being published in Mediator's notification structure. But I don't want to create the wire up for that, right? Because that's the presence of these in here should wire them up automatically. I don't need to create, okay, now I need a notification handler for the saga. Similarly, my existing subscribers should not have to pull the saga, right? So I go and retrieve the saga based upon an orchestration ID identifier. I then handle that notification and then I save the saga. This is pretty much boilerplate, right? So I'm looking to create the class that listens to the event and does this piece and updates the saga. That's step one. Step two will be to add in a pipeline to publish an event from the saga. So I may be adapting a pattern that is not really meant for local development into a local development thing. But right now it fits mentally for me and I'm comfortable with that. So these classes will be the handlers for those events. So let's see if that even builds. Let's see if it even gets to that point now. And the saga code, I've repeated it before, but the saga code, I will share this as an extra library. I will not make this a core component of my stuff, right? So, yep, that works. So now if I hit F10, I should have a source file. Come on. Copy value, go here. Yep, namespace sample.saga.handlers, which is correct. Public class sample saga handler, notification. So that would live in theory at this level, right? It'd be kind of an imaginary handlers directory. But the generators are not working. Why are my generators not working? That makes me sad. I can't delete them. Yeah. It might seem convoluted, but from my perspective, I'm just trying to make sure that I can add something in and move forward with the development mentally. So in general, this project, the reason I'm sharing it on stream is to show I'm trying to build a real application and here's the decisions I'm making as I go along, right? What design decisions I make, what justifications I make for cutting corners, all those things that you really do in development. Um, so, you know, and I'm trying to prototype out some of that code before I get deep in the development so that I've got some answers to common problems that I'm going to receive. And this is the first like architectural, okay, I could write it one way, but I know a better pattern. I know something fits and it kind of feels right. So yeah. And it does allow me to keep more single responsibility, right? These subscribers, they shouldn't know about the saga, right? They should just do their thing, right? This updates the user and does this. So this code will, when I get this working, will look like that again. It will do one thing and one thing only. It will not do more than that. It's not responsible for anything else. So this will help clear that up massively. But I've got to get the source generators working first. So I can't refresh this. I can't delete this. So what do I do? Right? I can't do sample notification handler. It doesn't know that exists yet because it's not even in the source tree. So what, I didn't change anything about how I generate. This is actually doing the right thing. Class actually, is it creating sample saga? No, it's not. It should do sample saga. Generic argument. Generic argument handler, right? So it should be sample saga, sample notification handler. A bit wordy, but it's clearer about what it's doing. That's the correct name for that class. It should handle the event. And then this code, again, I will build out all the boilerplate for doing that. Because dependency injection stuff will work against these classes. So it's not like I'm going to miss that. But we need this to work first. Okay, so build that. Put a breakpoint. Let's debug. The one thing I don't think I have done is actually stepped over and seen that it does say that it worked. So maybe I'm actually missing the final error in the chain. But that's what it. There we go. Sample saga, sample notification handler. Right. In reality, that's going to look more like tenant registration saga, and it was registered handler. Right. Again, super wordy, but we're not writing it, and it's also very clear what it's doing. Right. And we can worry about tidying that up later. So it does an error. It should create that handler. Hold on. Oh. I just cut something out. Should have done there. No. Why did that go crazy? I've changed something. That won't build. Right? No. Why that syntax go? Well, how am I going to instantiate them? So, fun fact. the fact that I register them, so these subscribers, I'm actually going to use source generation to create classes that will be picked up by source generation. So I'm using a library called Mediator, and packages Mediator, Mediate or not R. There's another framework that's more popular. This uses source generators to generate the wire up for these events. Well, they won't be random, right? Because I'm listening to known notifications. These are the notifications. So in this example, right, sample notification, this would be tenant user was registered. This will generate those classes, and then when Mediator starts up, it will, or when it builds, it will also generate the wire up for, oh, I see a subscriber to that notification. I'll say when this notification comes in, here, you need this as well. So it will actually wire that up for me and do the dependency injection. So underneath, it's creating quite a complicated chain for what it's doing, for what it's visibly doing, right? And again, the only goal I have here is I should be able to write a saga and listen to an existing notification, and ta-da, it works, right? I'm good. I'm being very lucky today with my puppy's being very, very sleepy. So yeah, it will actually do the wire up for me. I mean, it might not do, right? I might hit a problem there, but right now I don't think I will. Okay. So I think I'm going to remove this, right? I'm going to delete this out. I don't need these. That's all boilerplate demo code anyway. I've got it kind of generating in theory. We get here, it builds. What is it doing differently? I mean, it shouldn't have more than one declaration, so it's not like it's conflicting. No, it's definitely not changing it. Add source, hint name, source text. Debug. I don't see it. I don't see where I'm going wrong on this one. But I clearly am. Everything I've done so far says that should work. I'm going to do something. I hope I'm wrong. Please be wrong. Yeah. No, no. I was right. Oh. I turned it off and turned it on again. Okay, so next challenge. So you can see this. I can't change this, right? Because it is what it is, and it won't build. It'll error. Maybe it'll only error when I actually use it. Var handler equals new sample saga sample notification handler. Okay. The namespace name handlers does not exist in the namespace samples. Okay. So I do need to use the right things, right? That's going to be the hard part here. I wonder if there's some tools for doing what I want it to do, like importing it and saying, hey, here's how it actually breaks down. I would imagine there will be somewhere. There was actually a plugin suggested by JetBrains, but it's not been updated to the latest version yet, I don't think. Let's have a look. Plugins. ROS. Syntax Visualizer. This plugin adds support for C# and opinionated code formatter. No, I don't want code formatting. Plugin to view syntax tree of C# code. This plugin provides the ability to view a simplified C# code syntax tree. Let's see if it does it. Because then we can analyze the actual thing and be able to pull the, here's what we actually need to pull, like figure out how to query that namespace out of that object. Because what we need to do here is we need to do, essentially we need to do using sample dot notifications, right? Because that needs to be there, and using sample dot infrastructure. So if I build that now, yeah, that's the problem. It's gonna, I don't want to complain about that. But build that now, does that build a better version of that class? It does, right? So now it's got the right namespaces. This notification handler doesn't exist. So again, I'm going to have to rely upon knowing that there's going to be some pieces there, right? Because I can't take those dependencies either. Well, I don't think I can. Hold on. Add reference. Managing packages. Mediator. Abstractions. Can I do that? Because then I would have access to. So I'm going to create my own interfaces, which are going to be used basically as signaling interfaces to my code generation, which will then create classes to generate the wire up for these individual things. And the I am started by versus I handle will be different in that these will know that they can establish the saga, and this will only be able to retrieve the saga. It will not actually create the saga. So if it receives this before it receives the others, it won't do anything with the sagas. So we have these are iNotification handlers, and this comes from Mediator. Nope, can't change that. Gotta change this. There is the Mediator library uses a really nice syntax a templating library that I'm going to look at because I was looking at Mediator for inspiration on this piece, and it uses a really nice library so that what I'll do is I'll create actual files so they look like C# files, and that way I can edit them without having all this string syntax bumped in here. But I need this to work before anything else, right? I don't need this to be, just, yeah. So anyway, this will need Mediator. No. Here's the challenge. You got to figure out which version you're talking about. Source generator. The one thing I'm going to have to learn is so I've added them in there, right? but I'm gonna have to see if I can add it as a dependency of generators, so that you have to pull that package. Now there's mediator source generators, right? That's generated by mediator. Now can I do var saga handler equals new sample saga sample notification handler? Type on namespace handlers does not exist. It's actually that it doesn't like. Really? In the same namespace? I love how the fact that I restarted it after I generated that first one, and now it's just doing it all the time. Handler equals new sample saga sample notification handler. The type on namespace name sample saga notification could not be found. Are you missing a using directive? Sample.infrastructure. Sample.notifications. iNotification. Oh, that's not good. That should be that now. Sample notification is iNotification. Could not be found. Why? What is wrong with it? We're getting there. We're getting there. Generators, the notification handler generator. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully, for those of you watching and kind of wanting to learn this, then I hope that this is at least making sense, my struggle so far. And what I'm aiming for, I hope is clear enough that, you know, because this doesn't matter right now, right? The handler is what I need to actually hold on. It might be right. These subscribers, my notification handler. No, that's right. Using mediator, using sample infrastructure. These I can pull, right? Because I know the types that I want to evaluate, so I can pull them out. I'm not public class. Is it because it doesn't implement it properly? Let's do this. Add new class. Sample saga sample 2 notification handler. Have a look. Using sample notifications. Right. There we go. That's why. Because it doesn't implement the interface properly. So because I've quickly evolved into trying to implement the real thing, that's where I'm struggling. That's why that broke there. I'm hoping that's why it broke. I'm hoping that this actually fixes the problem now, right? Because I wasn't implementing the real the real thing. I was just implementing my semi version, and then I switched halfway through to using the wrong type. So let's have a look. Nope. I don't think it needs a partial class. So part of the you can actually decorate existing classes, and that actually might be how I add the publishing of further events, right? I might chain these together by saying, okay, when you complete, publish this event, and add that code in through code generation. And I can modify the actual saga doing that way. No, you don't like that. Let's have a look. Let's just remove this again. Let's remove that again. Public partial class sample saga sample notification handler, iNotification handler, value task. That's why. Again, let's watch. Let's see if it actually does work. New class. No, new file. New file. Sample.cs. If I paste it in, does it actually work? What isn't it like? Member with same signature is already declared. Oh. So value task is in, but it doesn't have a namespace for it. See, the mediator, the moment I added this file in here and it knows it's a notification handle, this is the thing, Rockstone. The other code generation has now gone off and it actually wired up how to add this as well. So there's immediately references to it the moment I include it. So it's just code generation going nutty everywhere. Using system dot threading dot tasks. That's saying none of that's required. Okay, so that all builds. So what we're going to do is here, let's do var handler equals new sample, saga sample 2 handle notification. That builds. But sample saga fails, could not be found. I'm not planning on using this, by the way, for generating the files and then copying them in. That isn't going to happen. But it's saying I don't need that. I don't need that, that's for certain. What else am I missing? I think that I think needs to be there. Again though, if we paste that in, it knows that it's invalid. It knows that the name is a duplicate, right? So if I do that, there's the other code generation, it's gone and done its thing. And it says I don't need, and that bugs me. I still think I need that. Var saga equals new type or namespace could not be found. Are you missing a using directive or an assembly reference? No. Code generation. Roslyn. The type or namespace could not be found. I fed your first example into and the result into compiler. I guess the node type that you're compiling is somewhat wrong. You can use Roslyn syntax visualizer to check. Right. Okay. So, did that tool install? Is the question. Syntax tree viewer. Oh. Unfortunately, you could not process your file. Eh. Not much of a tree viewer, are you? Unfortunately, we cannot process your file. Process this one? Nope. uh. Well, I'm open to ideas if anyone's got one. Right now, I'm a little bit stumped. It's so close. If this works, right, the next phase would be to go and to build this part, right? So we'd inject Saga persistence, we'd pull the Saga, we'd retrieve the actual Saga because the handler would be on the class that we're handling, right? Because again, we've got sample Saga. We know the name of the Saga, right? And if I create another Saga, right? Watch. Let's create a different notification. Other notification, which is an I notification. And it's got a public string name on it as well. If I create another Saga, and that is I handle other notification. Did you see that get created? There's our other one. So it's working. It found them. And if I go and change this to Bob, does it generate? Does it regenerate? How quickly does it regenerate? There you go. There's Bob. There's Bob. Okay. So it does regenerate. It is analyzing them. So it feels like I'm missing. What am I missing there though? Generator notification handler failed. Invite operation secrets contains one. Oh, hold on. Generator notification handler failed. When did it fail? Okay. Class name. Another saga. There you go. There's one. Copy to production context. Okay. So it didn't fail. What? Oh, it rebuilds them again? No. Be dopey. Edit configurations. I need to run sample. What did I just change? Generator failed to open. Sequence contains no elements. The type. So it's like it's building an incomplete version when it goes to build. Right? So I build this, that fails. If I build this, it succeeds. If I build that, it fails. Build. No issues. These classes are valid though. I don't understand why they would be broken. They are fully valid. We've proven that here. The type on namespace. Sample saga, sample notification handler.g.cs. Namespace sample.saga. It's gonna be something really annoyingly easy. Okay, so the challenge is, how do I, if I do this and hit F5, right? How do I get it to error if it's not erroring? Right? To CS time 1. That's wait. That's the generators that are running there. So again, how do I debug something that's not erroring? If I hit F5 now, it'll hit here. Right? And this is clearly working. Let's do something simpler before I call this the end. Try the second. Let's comment this out. Let's create a simple generator. It's a generator. That's necessary, by the way. And it's an iSource generator. We initialize it. We don't need to do anything in the initialization right now, right? Source text is going to be using system. Namespace. I do not care. Public class. I'm generated. There we go. That works. Remove all this. Remove all that. That. And that. And that. Coding.utf8. And we're going to do context.add source. I am generated.g.cs source. Right? So we have I am generated right there. Now let's inject our var instance equals new I am generated instance dot do something. I do not care. Could not be found. Please. No. Oh, it doesn't have a using. Sample. Don't make this a console project. Console app. Selected profile was not found. Edit configurations, .NET project, sample. Run. Hello world. Is it the namespace for real? You can't have a namespace? Let's comment that out again. I mean, that wouldn't make sense, surely, because you've got to be able to put code into the tree. But let's remove it. Let's validate. Right? Build them. Yeah, that's understandable. We build them. Console.writeline. Hello world. Sample runs. That's fine. Var handler equals new sample saga sample notification handler. Await handler dot handle. New sample notification. Cancellation token. None. The type of namespace could not be found. So I clearly have a little bit more to get through. We remove the namespace there. Let's do this is going to be, I'm using public void do a thing. That'll work. Okay. Handler. So now we've got handler do a thing. Ah. I'm generating commented out code. It's that good. I'm generating commented out code. Program do a thing. Okay, so we don't have any namespaces in there, right? Still errors. Could not be found. The type of namespace could not be found. Well, there's no dependencies other than system. That's not what I wanted to do, right? Okay, well, type of namespace could not be found. But that's no different than simple generator at this point, right? There's no difference. Just the name that I've generated doesn't matter. That code is no different than the other. Most frustrating. Because I feel that this is the right path right now. Okay, so the goal of this stream was to try and get this part working so that the sagas would be invoked from the events without me having to do the wire up, right? Then I could put that code in to retrieve the saga. The reason being, if I just take a brief review, I modified the saga, or rather the persistence as well, because I wanted to. We ended the stream yesterday on the need to have the orchestration identifier, right? Every message that comes through has to have an orchestrating identifier. And in this case, it's that GUID. And in the case of the saga we're working on, it's the tenant ID. So I need to construct the saga with that. I can't avoid it. But I can't then do dependency injection because you have to get into some really weird patterns if you want to do kind of factory construction of an object using dependency injection. And I didn't want to get into the world of, okay, let's now go create a class that investigates the parameters of the class and then constructs it, but it knows what it's being passed. And no, that I know I'm going complicated, but that was just too messy. So I decided, okay, well, this is the path we're going to go down. We're going to remove the concept of saving from this, right? So the saga doesn't have any concept of saving, right? Everything that uses the saga should be dealing with it. Because I kind of agreed. Yes, I had a conversation with myself and I agreed. I kind of want to go down the path of kind of a pipeline of things that happen against the saga. The last one being persistence, or the first one, whatever. I retrieve the saga, and then later in the pipeline, I can save the saga if it needs to be done, or I can remove it. So there's a set of actions. One of those will be, hey, does it have this interface? Is it complete? Okay, trigger that thing, so that I can wire in the publishing of an event just by adding an extra interface onto here, which will create a method, and that way I can invoke that remotely. And that might be I publish when finished, and this would be tenant is ready, right? And this would give me a method that I could invoke, right? Nice. So that I could say, okay, this is this saga publishes when it's complete. Is it complete? Yeah. Okay. Now invoke its publish method, which will give it the message it needs to use. And that, again, leaning into the fact that I'm using mediator, not shying away from that fact. I'm not trying to hide the underlying framework. I'm trying to augment the framework. So I would then publish an event, a notification in the mediator world, which would then get subscribed to, and that subscriber will sit here. Tenant is ready, handler, right? And this would I handle notification, tenant is ready, right? So this would be tenant is ready. Right, public GUID, right? So leaning into that rather than shying away from it is kind of what I need to do. I need to make sure that if I'm going to do it, it's I notification handler, isn't it? You'd think I'd know how to do this by now. Because I've always kind of liked the I piece. I know that it's not the way to do interfaces much anymore. And, you know, some people are like, oh, that's really the wrong way to do interfaces. But I kind of like it. But I also do lean into the I am, right? I am started by. It's kind of nice. So yeah, from here then I would publish the Kafka notification, which continues to break the application up into single responsibility. I can test these components; they chain together nicely. Right, the saga's only responsible for coordinating the events and publishing. It doesn't have to, and telling, well, coordinating the events. It's exactly what the saga is meant to do. So it doesn't have to do anything more. And there we go. So I just need to figure out why my source generator is not working. unfortunately, I do have to finish because I have a job to do, and that pays the bills. Um, I will try and get back on over the weekend at some point. I will do the dual stream all the time from now on. So even if I stream and you miss it, the recording will be up there pretty quickly. Hopefully the quality has remained good and it's nice and clear. I haven't actually got to watch it back yet. I don't like to get bogged down with a lot of editing, so I apologize for that. So I don't do any video editing on these things. They're just there for your viewing pleasure. Although apparently my viewing figures on YouTube have climbed quite drastically. Good, good. So when I get this piece working, I will start to build out the actual library, and then I will publish that to its own repository, and that's what I will include in the actual real project. I will not. I'll try and build a NuGet package using Git, GitHub. I'll build a NuGet package repository against the Saga library and include that library so that I will demonstrate how to use it. I will not be using a kind of custom version. And there we go. So that's me for today. Again, I will try and get back on over the weekend. If not, I will return on Monday. And I'll share any progress. As always, if you're interested, the Discord is there. I should make sure that I have a permanent link, but you're more than welcome to sorry, you're more than welcome to join. If you have any questions, Amal, you definitely know where the Discord is. If you have any more questions about what I've done, if you want to discuss more, whatever, go there. And yeah, we'll finish up here, and I will see you again soon. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.